What's up, guys? The video that we're watching today is How to Survive Victorian London by the channel Blue Jay. I don't know if it's me, but I always found the Victorian era very interesting. I don't know if it's because I've been watching a whole bunch of documentaries about the era or something, but well, I always found the area very. I always it's very fascinating. I'll just say that. And well, let's get the video started.
Downton Abbey and find yourself thinking, I should have been born in the Victorian era. Well, you're stupid. Firstly, because Downton Abbey takes place 11 years after the Victorian era, silly goose, and secondly, because life in Victorian London would be absolutely terrifying for someone accustomed to the luxuries of the 21st century. But let's say you somehow end up in a Freaky Friday situation and switch bodies with a bona fide Victorian. How are you going to survive the London streets? Not to worry. With my extensive background studying history,
That would
certified
be utterly terrifying, to be back in time in Victorian era. That would be like so. I don't know how to explain.
by my 90,000 Reddit karma, I'm here to teach you everything you need to know to survive the Victorian era.
See, like, how would you like we're accustomed to cars and like crosswalks and all that. Like, how would you survive on a street like this? Like, you had to know all like the rules of the road and all that, and, like not to be run over by like a horse, by a carriage, and
Everything
also
you need to
British
know to
money. Also, like I think it was like before like the 1900s. Like the money was way different.
survive the
Very
Victorian era.
confusing. I like this music.
Alright, so you just finished your Disney Channel style body swap and have officially transported over a century back in time to Victorian London. Gah! What? What is it, James? My body? What's happening? It looks like during the body swap you've received a lethal dose of
Oh
gamma
no.
radiation. Oh, and your hairline is receding. My hair? Oh, yeah. Actually, 2 out of every 3 guys will experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35. But about that radiation, how do I keep it? All right, weird priorities. Well, really, the best way to combat hair loss would be with
Oh, it's an
Keeps. It's a
ad.
fantastic doctor
Okay.
recommended online service that offers clinically proven treatment to stop hair loss and improve hair growth. They're customer focused with a 24/7 care and support network of expert medical advisors and care specialists at the ready to help you with any questions you might have. Whether you're looking to prevent hair loss, stimulate hair growth, or honestly, if you just want to take better care of your hair in general, Keeps is perfect for you. They even got award-winning shampoo and conditioner. When's the last time you won an award? Never? I know. Here you go. Now for the radiation. Well, at least they'll go out with luscious curls. Hair loss stops with Keeps. To get 50% off your first order, go to keeps.com/bluejay or click that link in the description. That's keeps.com/bluejay. Thank you, Keeps, for sponsoring the video. Of course, Alex, you're gonna have to
Back
wait
to
a
the
few
video.
centuries until you've got internet again, as you're now in Victorian London. The city is booming from the results of the Industrial Revolution. The air is dense, but the stunning Gothic Revival architecture still manages to pierce through all the
Oh
smog.
God, how
It's a
how
city
how would you breathe through that? Like I have asthma, so that's like a nightmare. Like Jesus.
of rapid expansion and expensive projects, starkly contrasted by the overflowing slums. But man, taking in all these new sites is really starting to make you thirsty. So you
No,
head on over to a well pump
absolutely
for a
not.
fresh sip of water. First mistake, what are you, crazy? You won't even survive a day here. You can't drink the water. Cholera outbreaks are about as common as an office quote in a Tinder bio. The booming population of London, combined with newly introduced indoor plumbing, resulted in overwhelming amounts of
Oh
raw
God.
sewage. This sewage ended up in the Thames River, which happens to be London's main source of drinking water, thus completing the
Oh
circle
my
of
God.
life. During one cholera outbreak, Jon Snow, a supporter of germ theory, looked at all this sewage in their drinking water and had the hot take of, hey, what if we drink water, but without the poop? And ended the outbreak by ripping off the handle of a contaminated well pump. At the time, the community believed in the miasma theory,
All right,
basically the idea that
yeah.
diseases were
Like it was like during the Middle Ages and like up until like quite like what until like 200 years ago, people believed that like not in germs, like they believed that like what smells affected your health. Like they were like smelling bad was a disease.
transmitted through foul
Yeah.
odors. So government officials still rejected Snow's theory of fecal oral transmission, stating, "Germs in the water? Don't be ridiculous. It was stinky air." And this wouldn't be the last time a Jon Snow's potential was shattered. So unless you want to die a painful death, I suggest boiling your
Mhm.
water, or just stick to hard liquor, where the alcohol would not only
Or
kill any
tea.
germs,
This is Britain. Tea.
but also help drown that regret you're starting to feel for wishing to be in Victorian London instead of shutting up and playing Wordle like a good little
Mhm.
consumer. Alright, now that you're properly shit-faced, you're gonna need to pinpoint your social class so you know who you're allowed to interact with. But isn't who I am inside more important than some
No,
social class?
no,
No! Simply talking to a social class higher than yours is enough to get you arrested here.
Jesus.
Luckily, it's rather easy to find out which one you belong to. For example, are you over the age of 25 and alive?
Oh my god.
Then you're probably not in the lower class, as male tradesmen and laborers have of 25 and
Oh
22
my
respectively.
god. That's terrifying and kind of sad. Jesus.
But let's say you find yourself a member of the respectable upper class. What can you expect from your newly found privileged life? Well, first off, you can kiss the thought of a hard day's work goodbye, because with the fortune your family has built over generations through certainly non exploitive means, you'll never have to work a day in your life. So instead, you're gonna have to find out how to kill all this free time you got on your hands. Being a person with enough wealth to buy a handful of developing nations, or one GPU, you decide to use your money to give back to the poor people whose blood, sweat, and Fossy Jaws helped you build your riches. So you buy tickets to next
Oh
Tuesday's
my
Freak
god.
Show. Freak shows were essentially the MCU of the Victorian era, loved by people of all ages and social classes, except for pretentious people who prefer more refined entertainment, like seances. Everyone from your average Joe to Queen Victoria herself loved to goggle and laugh at all the different looking people performing. These freak shows showcase people with physical abnormalities, such as dwarfs, conjoined twins, giants, fat people, thin people, hairy people, ethnic people, and whatever else
Oh
they
my
thought would pique
god.
people's curiosity. Gather round, folks, gather round, for I'm about to unveil the wonders of the world. Realities beyond your comprehension. Freaks from distant and foreign
What was the
lands.
appeal of going to these? Like, sure, you're seeing people different from you, but like, what's like? I don't know if it's me, but I don't like spending money to go to places like going to like theaters or going to like fairs. So I guess I just don't understand. I guess what other people would find it
Meet
interesting.
the man of hair. The precious Piper Pinky. And behold, Paul! I thought this was a freak show. Oh, trust me, Paul's a freak. However, the reign of freak
This guy is
shows
funny.
came to an end as reports of mistreatment of the performers came to light, and the public was furious to find out that the people they went to laugh at for being less than human were being treated as less than human. But now that you've reached your limit of being near the working class who aren't actively carrying your dry martini on a silver platter, it's time for you to build your social status with your fellow aristocrats. To do this, you're gonna have to capitalize on some of the trends of the time. No, not child labor, we'll get to that later. I'm talking Egyptomania. Napoleon's campaigns in Egypt brought back trade and artifacts to Europe, eventually igniting a craze for all things Egyptian in the West due to its perceived exotic nature. This craze peaked during the Victorian era, and Victorians sure had interesting ways of indulging in this trend, such as hosting mummy parties. Not the Brendan Fraser kind, they weren't that based. Specifically, they held mummy unwrapping parties. Getting your hands on a mummy was the easy part. You could literally cop one from street vendors in Egypt like a pin from Disney World, but unwrapping them required a trained professional called an unroller. Why exactly they had to hire a professional to do some glorified banana peeling is beyond me, but I can only assume that their training involved a significant amount of fruit by the foot. Essentially, a bunch of people would gather round to watch the unroller unwrap the mummy and perform an autopsy, including cutting into the skull to go, oh my god, look, he's got a brain. That's crazy. Fragments of the pungent mummy wrappings were then
Oh,
passed throughout the audience for
it's
their
disgusting.
pleasure, I guess. What am I supposed to do with this?
I would actually believe someone actually did that. Like someone would actually do that because I can't remember the documentary, but it's like it mentioned that like some rich guy back then like they were unwrapping so many mummies that they literally had more like mummy cloths than like paper napkins. So what they were doing for, like at parties, like they were actually using mummy wrappings as like as napkins and stuff. That's which I thought was crazy.
While today we recognize hosting an unboxing party for corpses and disgracing a people's history is the most optimal way to speedrun a Twitter hashtag, the Victorians just couldn't help but satisfy their intrigue. And in their defense, they basically came gift wrapped. But if you need any more convincing on how evil this practice was, the most famous unwrapper was a surgeon named Pettigrew. But overall, in the upper class, you don't need to worry all that much about staying alive. Except for the arsenic in your walls, lead on your dolls, corsets in your torsos, cyanide in your photos, strychnine in your tablets, explosive bits of plastic, kitchens full of toxins, morphine for your youngins, mercury coated hats, radiation from your glass, kerosene in hair products, and asbestos in just about
Although
everything.
to be fair, like these things were already happening like way like even before the Victorian era. These things were like in products, but like But since like nothing was very like industrialized and nothing was mass produced yet, like people did not really care or just not notice the effects. It was only after the Victorian era, or like actually by the end of the Victorian era, people like started to notice the bad effects of these products. So I guess I can't really blame them for people using this stuff.
Good luck. But what
Like
if you
people
aren't
just didn't
lucky enough
know,
to live the life of a
or like
Victorian
randomly
Scrooge
finding it
McDuck,
out.
and instead you find yourself living La Vida Pobre in the working class? Hold off on the booze there, buddy. As tempting of a coping mechanism alcohol is, we gotta make sure you even survive childhood first. Let's put you in a humble family of 7 kids, and shit, 4 of your siblings just died.
Jesus,
What? Oh yeah, nearly 60% of working class children died before the age of 5. Good for you, champ, you won the coin toss. I need to lie down. So long as it's in a minor chimney, because it's time for you to get to work. I'm 5 years old. And about time you started contributing to the family, you lazy leech. Without child labor laws, working class kids started working as early as 4 years old. Now pick your poison, chimney sweeping or coal mining. Well, I suppose it's just a 9 to
those
5.
both sound like terrible jobs. Like look at that. Like that's like they're literally crawling down and pushing carts of coal.
No. Victorian children were expected to work 12 to 18 hours a day. Gotta beat out that optimism early. Besides, you've only got that small stature for so many years. Companies have to capitalize on your ability to squeeze in the tight spaces while you can. Now, these are still your formative years, so we gotta make sure you choose the child profession that'll cause the least amount of physical and emotional trauma. There were a lot, but let's narrow it down to chimney sweep and coal miner and weigh some pros and cons. As a coal miner, you can expect some permanent eye damage due to eye strain from the dark
Hmm.
environment, respiratory problems from coal dust,
Like
permanent
black
spine
lung.
deformation due to stooping, and of course, there was the occasional explosion or cave
God.
in. But on the bright side, you're essentially playing the closest Victorian equivalent to Minecraft. As for chimney sweeps, say goodbye to the skin on your elbows
Ugh.
and knees as that's all getting scraped off. You'll experience some irreversible lung damage from all the soot, and there was a high risk of death from falling or getting stuck in the tight chimneys. But at least you can die happy knowing that when Mary Poppins comes out in 100 years, Dick Van Dyke will forever cement your profession as much cooler than it actually was. So, assuming you survive your childhood profession, it's time for the big boy world. Now, I know the idea of living poor in a Victorian city is probably a terrifying concept, but don't worry. The Victorians actually put in some effort to help the poverty stricken wastes of oxygen.
What?
Excuse me. Less fortunate folk. For example, if you're homeless, you can escape the cold at a penny sit up, where for the small price of 1 penny, you get to sit on a bench in a
That
shelter for
sounds
the night.
nice.
Whoa, now don't get too crazy. You're not allowed to
What?
sleep here. What do you think you are, a human? You only paid for the privilege of sitting, and penny sit ups even had monitors to ensure you
What?
didn't fall asleep. If you're looking to catch some Z's, you're gonna have to cough up an extra penny at a 2 penny hangover. Don't get too excited. Contrary to the name suggests, a 2 penny hangover is not a charity dive bar where you can drink yourself into an ethanol induced coma. Instead, it was a rope that you literally hung over. Not the most comfortable
What?
experience,
This seems okay because it looks like they're sitting down, but that's just crazy.
but at least you'll be the coolest kid on campus with your minimalist hammocking setup. The rope was ideal because it allowed the staff to quickly dispense with all the poor people in the
Ah, I
morning. But
see.
hey, maybe it was a good day at the factory and you walked out with 4 pennies in your pocket, you little aristocrat, you. Well, you can afford to be a high roller and head on over to a 4 penny
What?
coffin. Yep. While it may look like you just got shipped back from the Crimean War, a 4 penny coffin was quite the step up from a rope, to be fair. You got to spend the night in a nice coffin, you
How
had
much was renting like an apartment or a house back then? Like, or at least like paying to live somewhere nice. Like, that's
a
crazy.
tarp to keep warm, and you even got assigned your own little serial number, which is undoubtedly the closest you'll ever get to being acknowledged in your life. Speaking of life, you better get used to this one, as people didn't exactly graduate from social classes, so the only 4 walls you'll likely ever get to call home will be a coffin at best, or a coffin at worst.
Oh
If you can afford it. But on the bright side, if you manage to survive through the era, you'll get to experience many of the following significant discoveries and advancements. America found its second manifest destiny with the discovery of crude oil in 1859. Charles Darwin published his book on the concept of evolution, meaning that in a few centuries we may evolve past thinking crocs are cool. Darwin's half cousin, Francis Galton, took this research and started modern eugenics, which led to problems. Alexander Graham Bell patents the telephone in 1876, a device that changed the world by allowing people to learn about their car's extended warranty. Germ theory would become accepted by the end of the
my.
Victorian era, and nobody would doubt doctors ever again. The 19th century saw many innovations in data visualization for statistics, which are used today for optimizing shiny Pokemon encounter strategies. The Bezimer process gave us bigger buildings for more people. Modern artillery gave us smaller buildings for
God.
less people. Radiation was discovered in 1896, leading the cancer treatment in Imagine
Mhm.
Dragons. The Navier-Stokes Stokes equations were developed to describe the motion of viscous fluids and weed out chemical engineering students. And Carl Benz builds the world's first car while simultaneously killing the concept of peaceful suburban life. And those are just a few of the significant advancements made during the iconic Victorian era. So, Alex, are you excited for your new
No.
Victorian life? You want to go home and play Elden Ring? Good boy. The Victorian era. Disgusting and deadly, but inspired Bloodborne. 3 out of 10 stars.
Okay, that was a fun video. Very learned some stuff that I did not know beforehand, but that was a fun video. Well, I hope everyone had a fun time watching this video and watching my reaction. If you guys liked it, like and subscribe, please. And I'll put a link to the original video in the description so you can go watch his video and like and subscribe his content. And well, yeah, I hope everyone has a good day. See ya.